I'd like to call the August 10th, 2020 Village Board meeting to order. Would you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, great. Okay, real quick, before we do the roll call, we have some legal language that I have to share with everyone. On July 24th, 2020, Illinois our Governor J.B. Pritzker again declared pursuant to Section 7 of the Illinois Emergency Management Agency Act 20 ILCS 3305/7 that a disaster exists in Illinois as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. As such, per SB 2135, recently passed by the General Assembly, I, as the Mayor of Lamont, in accordance with the aforementioned declaration of emergency by the governor, finds that it is not practical or prudent to have an in-person meeting tonight. Additionally, for the record, this meeting is being conducted via Zoom virtual platform. Notice of same was given to the public, and at least one person, in this case, our village administrator, George Schaefer, is present at Village Hall, as is required by the newly amended act. George, anything to add to that?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick item of note. A little bit of a strange evening with the Zoom meeting in general, but with power being out, we also have I have one trustee, McClafferty, here as well. I set up a computer in the boardroom, but earlier in the day, a couple residents called me and expressed that they didn't have a computer at home. So actually it worked out. Ken's going to be they're spread out in the boardroom, they're watching it, and they'll be able to participate. So kind of testing out our little hybrid program that we may have to go to one day. But they are safe, we are safe, and we'll continue to go on. A couple housekeeping items. The Mayor, you covered the electronic village board meeting portion. There were opportunities to comment prior to the meeting via email or mail. We did not receive any comments to read into the record. You can watch the meeting, live or after the fact on YouTube, and we will also put the meeting record into our new agenda management system, so you can view it there too. And then lastly, as you mentioned, you can participate live. Before we get back to a roll call, there will be two opportunities for public comment. We do have a public hearing early on in the agenda under Mayor's report. And then there will also be an opportunity under audience participation. Based on a couple calls I received, I know the items might be related to the agenda, which we might want to have them speak before we vote. We'll do that, but that counts as public participation, and we'll also do it later on in the day if anybody has anything for the board for consideration for this meeting or future meetings. But I'll go through that guidance again here soon. But please use the raise your hand feature of Zoom if you want to speak, and then I will call your name, and Ken will do his best to call up anybody who wants to speak who's in the boardroom. There's about 3 or 4 individuals in the boardroom. Yeah, so I will turn it back over to you. We'll get through it and start the meeting.
Okay, thanks, George. Charlene, do you want to do roll call for us, please?
Sure. This evening we'll be starting with Trustee Maher. And so Trustee Maher.
Present.
McClafferty. McClafferty.
Here? Yeah, he's in the boardroom.
Okay. Snagowski.
Here.
Stapleton.
Here.
Kittredge.
She was having some issues with her audio, so I told her if she is here, and we'll use the thumbs up method if that doesn't work. Janelle, can you hear us? Yeah, there you go. She is good.
She and I should get together because I don't have any video. Okay, the next
lost
person
her
is
power as well. I should mention that. So
yeah, Kwasniewski.
Here.
Okay,
Okay, thank you, Charlene. First off, we'll start with the consent agenda, which consists of the approval of minutes from the July 20th to 2020 Village Board Committee of the Whole, as well as the July 27th Village Board meeting minutes. In addition, we have approval of disbursements. We have an ordinance O-46-20 amending the Lamont Municipal Code, Chapter 5.04, Section 5.04.060.b for alcoholic beverages, decreasing the number of A3 liquor licenses. We have a resolution R-34-20 approving an exclusive auction and listing agreement with Sell at Auction LLC for Houston and State Street leases. And lastly, we have a resolution R-36-20 authorizing the village administrator to submit an application for coronavirus relief funds provided to Cook County under the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, quote unquote, called the CARES Act. I need a motion, please.
So moved. Snagowski.
Second, Maher.
Okay, great. We have a motion by trustee Snagowski, seconded by trustee Maher to approve the consent agenda. Before we take a roll call, George, or does anyone have anything else to add on the consent agenda?
Nope, nothing to add.
Okay, trustees, no comments. Okay, with that being said, roll call, please, Charlene.
Maher,
Yes.
McClafferty,
Yes.
Snagowski,
Yes.
Stapleton,
Yes.
Kittredge,
Yep,
Kittredge,
choose a yes. Thumbs up.
Kwasniewski.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, thanks, Charlene. Okay, next up, we have, our motion approved, I should say. Thanks, Charlene. Next up, we have the mayor's report. Before we get into the mayor's mention, we have a public hearing to consider the creation of a special service area number 2. I need a motion.
So
Open the
moved.
public hearing. Okay.
who
Second.
said, I'm sorry?
We
Who made
have
the
a-
motion?
Stapleton.
Oh, thank you.
Stapleton.
Okay, thank you. And it was
Second,
seconded
Maher.
by, thank you.
Okay, roll call, please.
Maher,
Yes.
McClafferty, 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 McClafferty,
He's a yeah. I can hear him from here. I don't know, Ken, if you can get on.
okay, Snagowski,
Yes. It looks like Ken's on mute, George.
Get him off. All right, Ken, try that now.
Stapleton,
Yes.
Stapleton, Kittredge, Kwasniewski.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, motion carries. Public comment. Do we have any public comment on this? George?
I didn't, I'll just go through briefly. The village of Lamont has negotiated a special services area agreement with Lucky Trip, reimburse the village of up to $564,000 for the installation of an off-site water main improvement that the village put in on behalf of the project. A 1% tax will be added to all the fuel sales at Lucky Trips. I have a map up here. This, no final action here tonight. The ordinance to put in place the special service area will be on an agenda likely in October, October or November, depending on the legal recommendations of our attorney. But again, 1% on all fuel, and until the investment is recouped. This doesn't preclude the village from adding this on to other properties that come aboard. The one thing that Lucky Trip asked for is if the village approves another gas station in the area that uses this line, that they also contribute until that maximum amount is reached. We thought that was fair. We'll put that into the ordinance, but really a good opportunity for bringing this gas station to town. You can see they're starting to get the walls up, and you know, that they're hopeful to be open by the end of the year. And Trustee Snagowski had a question. Mayor, whenever you're ready for him.
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
No question, just a comment. I just want to point out this is not the first time we talked about this. We must have talked about 4 different meetings considering cows and other meetings and the planning stages. So even though we're still going to talk about it again in October, it's moving along. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. And just as a backdrop, again, this is for a much needed gas station on the southwest side of town. We have no gas stations on the west side here. So very much needed. This was a project that we partnered with Homer Township. We annexed this area in. We're going to provide water, and the water is going to be basically paid for by the special service area. So again, want to thank Homer Township for their partnership in this, and we look forward to getting a gas station in Lamont for at least, you know, the western, southwestern part of town. So with that being said, any other public comment or comments by the trustees? Okay, with that being said, we need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Snagowski.
Second, Maher.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Snagowski, seconded by trustee Maher at 6:50 PM sharp. Roll call, please, Charlene.
Maher,
Yes.
McCafferty. McClafferty. McClafferty.
George, can you
Yes,
get a?
That was a yes, an aye, whatever. Okay, Snagowski,
Yes.
Stapleton,
Yes.
Kittredge. Kittredge,
She thumbs up.
She's a thumbs up. She's a yes.
Kwasniewski.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, motion pass. Before we move on, we have a couple of comments for the mayor's mention. Last Friday on August 7th, JB Pritzker, our governor's office, announced the Illinois Department of Public Health will file for emergency rules to put in place for businesses, schools, and childcare establishments regarding the requirements to wear face coverings. This new rule, per the governor's office, will help protect Illinois communities, but also frontline workers in response to ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Our village attorney, Mike Stillman, will be providing more information on this new rule during his report. Again, we continue to request all residents to wear face coverings and to maintain social distancing. Next up, the Lamont Park District will hold the last of their drive-in movie nights with one on August 11th and the last one on August 14th. Advanced registration is required. They're coordinating a community garage sale to be held on August 21st through the 23rd. If you would like to be listed in the directory, please contact the Park District. In addition, a family camp out will be held from 5 PM on August 21st from 9 AM through 9 AM, I should say, on August 22nd. And the Village and Park District will hold another Chalk It Up chalk art contest from September 4th through the 7th. Please visit the lamontparkdistrict.org for registration and information on all these events. Next up, the Lamont Legion's Cruise Nights takes place each Wednesday from 6 to 9 PM in our downtown Lamont and continues through August 26th. Please visit myhcda.com for more information. Again, this is an outdoor event. Please remember to bring and wear your face covering when you are not able to maintain 6 feet of distance from others. Mabel's Market is holding a Market and Garden on Canal event on Sunday, August 16th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Guests are asked to register on their Facebook page and check in. This is a very organized event with one-way pedestrian traffic and masks are required to be worn. Census takers began visiting homes in July. For those that have yet responded to the 2020 census, they'll be wearing face coverings, following local public health guidelines, and they will have a census ID badge when they visit your home. Their goal is to help you and everyone on your in your home be counted on the 2020 census. You can complete your 2020 census by phone, online, or by mail. Please visit 2020census.gov to complete the online form or call 844-330-2020. All right, so that's the mayor's mention. Next up, the clerk report. Charlene, please.
Thank you. The first ordinance to pass this evening would be O-47-20. And this is annexing certain property in accordance with section 7-1-13 of the Illinois Municipal Code, and that refers to 127th Street.
Okay, need a motion, please.
So moved.
So move. Second, Snagowski.
Okay, motion by trustee Stapleton, seconded by trustee Snakowski. George, do you have, you want to take it?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'll address the first 5 VA through E, you know, in one summary, and then we'll have to go through item by item. But after I go through my summary, I'll leave it up for questions from the board, and then I might even, I know we have a couple comments from the public. I'll try to get those in here too. For the last several years, the village has broadly evaluated opportunities for addressing our boundaries. This includes agreements with other villages. Last couple of years or a few years, Homer Glen, we have a boundary agreement with. Woodridge has been in place for a while. We've been working with Romeoville on some similar issues, but also it involves the annexation of territory and annexation initiatives with the overall goal of you know, achieving a uniform and consistent boundary, which is what we've talked about the last few years. For tonight, we're just talking about annexation of 5 small areas of unincorporated territory, and I'll go through those here in a second. You know, one thing, you know, people ask, why would we want to annex these territories? You know, one is to realize efficiencies in service delivery. We're already providing, as we've talked about, services around it, our police protection, public works. You know, the other would be to utilize our ordinances if we do see nuisance issues that come about. We've had some confusion of jurisdiction issues, and you know, we've had code enforcement issues of one property being unincorporated, another being in the village, and then having to work with the county sheriff and the county code enforcement department. It is a bit of a intergovernmental headache to coordinate that. You know, one thing, and also to utilize our codes for overall development. When there is new development in town, currently anything unincorporated has to go through the county process, which is a building permit through the county, or if they need a rezoning, they go through the county for that rezoning. So typically we, you know, over the last, you know, several years, we've typically waited for property owners to want to develop in order to annex territory to Lamont. And there are some advantages to that. You're able to, you know, you're able to tie certain items into an annexation agreement that you typically would not, being a non-home rule entity. You're able to do a little bit more with annexation agreements. So there is an advantage to waiting on some properties. We have properties that are eligible for annexation that are coming through the process for development now, that it just makes sense to wait so we can utilize the annexation agreement means. But there are also situations in which we'd want to be proactive. And the state constitution, I'm sure Mike can jump in later if he has any questions, does contemplate these scenarios where you have territory that is completely surrounded by a municipality. If it's under a certain acreage, the village board at its discretion can annex to realize those efficiencies, to utilize its own ordinances rather than rely on the county. And then I should also mention, it's also following the lead of Cook County. Several years ago, if you recall, Madam Preckwinkle, President Preckwinkle, when she took office, it was one of her directives was to try to get properties annexed to municipalities because of the efficiencies in service delivery, taking the burden off the county. So those are all the reasons why we would go through and why we've talked about this over the last couple of years. I'll go through before we answer any questions. Show the 5 areas that are being suggested or recommended for annexation at this time. I have the plat of annexations on the board here, right here, but you probably can tell where this one is. This is by our Starbucks Plaza, the 3 or tap house, I should say. There's 4 parcels that are currently unincorporated. You know, from our standpoint, there's a couple homes that are you know, vacant or dormant, and there is potentially some nuisance issues out here. So bringing them in makes sense. And we've talked about these areas. I think one of the homes actually still has a tree on top of it for the last 2 or 3 weeks. So it just, you know, again, not being heavy-handed, but just giving us the ability to, you know, have conversations with individuals when they're actually in our jurisdiction. So this is one area, mostly vacant. There's 2 homes that are dilapidated, and then there's also vacant property. Here's another one out by Grant 83 in Maine. More of a cleanup issue than anything. I would think Donegal would have included these when he came through with development, but they still show as unincorporated. Here's one. There's a couple of these that are interesting because annexation law allows for any municipality that borders a surrounded property to annex it. So you have much of this is surrounded by the village of Lamont. This is out by Main Street, but it's also surrounded by Palos Park. So in theory, either town could annex it, and just the village of Lamont taking a proactive approach. This is our village owned, just to the east of here is our village owned site, which we're bringing in for development soon. It's also a coordination issue on this one. We've worked with unincorporated residents the best we can on dealing with nuisances in the area, but having them in the village, you know, makes the most sense going forward. Here's another one similar to the previous one out by McCarthy Road. Again, these all meet the criteria for involuntary annexation. They are completely surrounded by the village of Lamont and Palos Park. So bringing them in makes sense to ensure our boundaries are, the village of Lamont is in control of these areas. And lastly, in kind of a different category, as we were doing these cleanup exercises, we realized that our own village-owned State Street water tower was unincorporated. So obviously we don't pay any taxes to ourselves, so it really wasn't an issue, but something of a cleanup measure we want to include in the village. Obviously, we have our tower out there, which we're going to paint later on in the year. We've applied for grants. One thing, and I'll read into the record some comments we've received. I know the mayor and I had coffee with one of the residents out near McCarthy Road, and a lot of the similar concerns. I should mention, as we go through a annexation process such as this, is that there's notice required, you know, through the mail, through certified mail. There's notice in the paper required. So I did receive several questions, and a lot of good questions. What we're hearing from, you know, unincorporated residents are, you know, more so than anything, is that they're concerned about the regulation of their land. You know, there are certain activities that are typically allowed in unincorporated areas that aren't in the village, or you know, typically villages require hookup to water and sewer. I think from our standpoint, it's something from, you know, talking to the mayor a little bit about it. It's not our intent to be to require those for existing development. I think water and sewer for any new development would be required to tap on. If we have property in town right now that's been in town for decades that still does not have village water, and some that don't have village sewer either. So I think we've been pretty flexible with that. That's not going to be a mandate. You know, some of these properties are large enough where they have livestock again, it's not our intent to, at least I'll leave it to the board. I guess it's your call. It's not our intent from a staff level to be heavy-handed on those type of activities. It's really about, the state contemplates these issues. We're able to, especially for this one, it could be one town or another. I think it's something that it's a good practice for village staff, for the village board to engage in, to ensure we have these issues covered. Mayor, I can stop there right now, see if you have any questions based on, our meetings we had with a couple of the residents and some of their concerns.
Yeah, George, thanks. Yeah, we met with a resident, very, very great meeting, and he was very, cooperative, but he's like, hey, love Lamont. My kids went to Lamont High School. I have properties in Lamont, but he actually has a couple of parcels that are not. And he's concerned about, hey, you know what? I have horses, I want to be able to ride my horses, and totally get that. I think, George, when we do incorporate this in, it has to go to a specific zoning. I believe it goes to R1. I think it's probably best, because this, is not going to be, the first or last time. I doubt it. But, I think maybe what we should do is contemplate, when we have some of these annexations that the village pursues proactively, that maybe potentially, again, I'm looking for other feedback from the board, where we create maybe a specific zoning, maybe, R1, unincorporated to be, or incorporated to be, or something along those lines, that will allow for at least, for the ownership lifetime of the person that lives there, some of these ad hoc issues such as horse riding or livestock. So again, we're not here to be heavy-handed. We're not here to take away someone's right that they have in that. But I think, I'd like to hear from the rest of the members of the board on, or George, maybe you, how do we handle, I guess, the interim period of the current owner as they own this land?
Well, and maybe, and it's a question for Mike, and I think he's on here, but I will, it's a good point I missed. Based on our village code, any property that's brought in reverts to R1, which is our, least dense, zoning district, residential zoning district. And that was a couple of questions that the resident had on, 127th. They were concerned if it got rezoned to commercial, what does that do to their taxes and things of that nature? From our standpoint, it goes to R1, but it does make sense. I know if Ron or Ken mentioned it in the past of, having our planning and zoning commission look at do we look at a new default zoning that deals with these issues that, lack of a better term, makes it, legal non-conforming to do these activities. So that's something that we could look at. Just right now, the only mechanism we have in our code is for it to revert to a straight R1 zoning district, and then it becomes, the village's, just intent through the minutes of this meeting. Those issues aren't our focus with these actions.
Thanks, George. Mike, do you have anything else to add on that?
No, George correctly noted that it does go as our default to R1. Later in the process, if the board so desires, or the village and then the board so desires, we can change that zoning. But as of now, and it's standard in all municipalities and usually in the county, that it reverts to the least restrictive form on the residential, which would be R1.
Mike, how do we, for the gentleman we met with today, he wanted some assurances that, hey, if we vote on this and we pass it, how do we assure him that, tomorrow or the next board doesn't turn around and say, hey, you know what, you have to hook up to our water, you have to hook up to our sewer, and you have to get rid of your horses. What can we provide that owner, as far as just, assurances that we won't do that?
As far as the horses, we can look at that portion of the code in which, if at all, it applies, and if it would be a legal non-conforming use because it had been used before. But we can put language in there that if a property had been annexed, that property was having activity that would not be considered a conforming use, that we would specify that they would be allowed to have that activity, so that we could answer it in that way. I forget the other question, Mayor, was that how
Yeah,
do
just
we,
the water and sewer.
again, that is something we could clear up in the code and make sure that, or I would have to think of there are a couple different mechanisms I have in mind, but knowing that was a concern, now I can work with your staff to ensure that we address those concerns.
Yeah, I think this owner and maybe his neighbor, just like, hey, we appreciate, this is obviously a public record. We're
Right.
going on public record saying, hey, we'll accommodate that. But I think he's looking for, something in writing or, I don't know if that's, I think what it is just going through the process of maybe a special use or something.
Well,
along
it would, and that's why I want to look at as far as the horse in particular.
or
We
livestock.
might be able to change that the code a little bit. Mark, I don't know if Mark Herman had something on that. Are you aware of that, Mark?
Add, our zoning code does allow for agricultural use in the R1 zoning and for the
Okay.
keeping of animals, including horses, based on some regulations related to the size of the lot and like setbacks in terms of where the horses or livestock are being kept. So without knowing any specifics in terms of the size of the property and where the animals are and such things, that the code does allow for that on larger lots. And of course, the code does allow for legally established uses to continue as non-conforming uses. It does contemplate things such as this with allowing non-conforming uses to continue.
So I think they're covered. We can make sure that if we need to change some of the requirements, we could do that. But Mayor, I think based on what Mark just indicated, I would concur that horse use, it would be an agricultural use. If there's a concern that where the horse use would be, it would, as we've indicated, it would be a legal non-conforming use since it had been used before. So I don't think but if they want something in writing, I'll make sure that I'm happy to put that in writing as your village attorney to them.
Okay, thanks, Mike. I think that's what they're concerned about. And
Sure.
yeah, I don't know if it's more than horses, if there's livestock or chickens but we can work with the property owners on that. So with that being said, George, I know right now, this is a motion on just 127th Street. Do we
Yeah,
want to maybe just,
Trustee Snagowski had his hand up, Mr. Mayor, if he's still, you want to go ahead, Rick, and then we'll.
Yeah, I just have a question, I guess, for Mike, without I understand that he's not prepared to make permanent answers, but I would suggest that we look at some kind of time frame tied to either the sale of property or the future development based on certain building, I don't know what the limit would be. I'd look to Mark to see what would be a reasonable limit on building. But obviously, if you were to put up another building or subdivide the property or anything like that, at that point, I think we should take a look at it. John, you mentioned chickens. So I do know that at one point in time we talked about that. Not necessarily. I don't want to equate it to these properties that are unincorporated and we don't have a problem with. However, we need to be careful not to bring in something that then allows us to develop a problem by having chickens which become a noise nuisance or something to that effect in the future, because we did write some of that out of our standards. So I think, we want to allow the latitude, but we also got to consider the recourse should it come up within an existing property somewhere within the village. So somehow we got to have a caveat there, and Mike, I'm sure, can come up with something for that.
Yeah, and to that regard, Rick, I mean, we were going to talk about it next next week at the committee meeting too, just under new business. We have been getting those requests and, you know, we're not, and I think it's something to look at, you know, for certain zoning districts, do we allow it? So we can get into that here shortly. So, the trend is going that way. So.
Okay.
You know, before I know we got to go, I did get two letters that came in or emails that came in. I'll kind of summarize them. We talked about a lot of these issues. One came from Christina Grinius, to whom it may concern. I'm very concerned about my property. She lives on McCarthy. That is being considered for annexation. One of the big reasons that I live in is it's unincorporated. The rules are not as stringent. I've grown up in an unincorporated area my whole life. You know, just concerns what we talked about, concern about the uses that generally are allowed in unincorporated. I think we covered them. The other one I got from Austin Hale, I think he's on here, but he just texted me. I did find it. Wanting to state his opposition. Large part of the appeal of being unincorporated, it allows us several liberties that we might not otherwise have. And he mentions animals. He does bring up taxes. You know, that is one thing with all the calls that I received. Usually it came down to regulation. I mean, the village, you know, being a village property won't increase your assessment any. The assessor doesn't go down that path, but the village will apply its tax levy to new property. I mean, I will say, you know, Lamont in general is one of the lowest tax rates in all of Cook County, close to the lowest when you took a look at the total rate, but there will be an additional levy from the village, and the village is the lowest, I think. It 0.513, I think it was last year. What we tell people, I know it's complicated. The additional village taxes, generally a general rule of thumb, if you take the actual value of your property, it's $100 per 100,000 of actual value. So that's the rule of thumb. The village does not receive much in terms of property tax, not crying poor here, but that's just the reality of it. So if you have a home that's, you know, if you have property that's worth 400,000, you generally will pay $400 in taxes to the village. You know, and there's also benefits. You know, you do get cheaper garbage rates. You do get a cheaper vehicle sticker. Generally equals out. You know, but it is not a huge financial windfall for the village to bring in these properties. So I'll just kind of that.
You also get the police protection and snow plowing and other services.
Correct. Yep. Along with the services, the police protection. And we heard from the gentleman we had lunch with today. I think he's on, you know, getting a permit in Cook County for even a deck or a pool. It is typically, you know, might take up to a year. So there's a lot of benefits to being in the village, and you know, so I'll just go through that. And then a lot of the questions here, what additional resources, utilities would be available? You know, I think again, as we mentioned, we would not require connection to village water and sewer, but it is in many areas it's available. You know, so we do have some areas of town that there are gaps, but being in the village, you have access then versus not being in the village, I should say. There's still some costs related to hooking up, but generally all these areas have water and sewer in and around them, which many people don't want, and that's fine. And then impact of annexation on the village as a whole. Went through that. Why is the village, you know, motivated? And it's a revenue motivator. It's not, you know, I think it's just looking at our boundaries and you know, I think it's important. It's not just the state constitution and Cook County wants more of these areas annexed. The state, it contemplates these situations where you don't have these holes everywhere, where you have confusion of service delivery. We heard, you know, our police department still has issues with dispatch, where they, the county sheriff and the Lamont Police Department show up to the same house, you know, at different times. We usually get there quicker, much quicker. There's still some of those issues. It's a greater good to have these properties in. And with the village's low tax rate, I think it's a good and good faith of not requiring you know, water and sewer. I think it's a good move for everybody involved.
Thanks, George. Again, George, is there any other or any landowners that are on that might want to talk before we vote on any of
Yeah.
5 of these?
Yep, I'll start off with David Hetrick has his hand up. I'll start there and then I'll turn it over to Ken. For a couple people are in the room with him. Go ahead, David.
All right. Did I create the echo? I hope not.
We got you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And again, Mayor and George, thank you. Just a couple of brief things. You know, my wife and I have been in Lamont for 15 plus years. We love the area. We love the community. We're one of the owners off of McCarthy. And we've got multiple properties here. But I got to tell you, one of the things that drew us to Lamont initially is the heritage and the culture that we have here. And part of that heritage and culture is the farm that we own here. It's been in here for 80 plus years. The original structures are here. We are still promoting and maintaining those. And in order to do that, we need to hopefully keep a well and septic going that's already been talked about. But I think it goes to speak to the community and part of what Lamont has been over the years. And you guys have done a great job of preserving the canal and different things that way. I think this is also a part of the heritage, and it becomes the front line. We're right on the border from Palos coming into Lamont. And so I just would appreciate if the board would consider to grandfather us in for our current agricultural and livestock rights and take into documenting this non-redevelopment. Unless we redevelop the property, we don't have to tie into the water and the sewer. So thank you.
Thanks, David. And thanks again, Dave, for, meeting with us today. Appreciate your time. And we hear you loud and clear. And, I hope you heard earlier from our discussion with Mike, being able to grandfather in your wishes as far as, the livestock. Obviously, any new development, as you mentioned, would be subject to, the zoning and the rezoning of it and the rules that follow, just like any other developer would. But grandfathering in your current uses is something we definitely want to consider. Is that you, George?
No, this is Trustee McClafferty. I'm in the boardroom. We've 4 other residents here. I think some of them want to speak also.
Okay, great. Thanks. Go ahead, Ken.
Hello. Hello, my name is Jim Kelly. I reside at 13525 McCarthy Road with my wife, Jeannie, and my mother, Janet Olson, who was on the tax record as the property owner. We would like to state at this present time, we are not interested at all into incorporating into Lamont or Palos. The benefits to us, we do not see them. We see our property taxes going up. We see our vehicle stickers going up. We also see no benefit to the road in front of us, since McCarthy Road is a state road and the state plows the snow out there. As for the police protection, right down the street at Equestrian Estates, the sheriff's station down there regularly. Also, there's the Rangers headquarters right down the street, which now gets free water from Palos from the last land fiasco. So the other thing we're also worried about is if we get annexed, besides the water, besides the sewer, Kennington's Estates is a subdivision surrounding us on the back, is the possibility of sidewalks coming across the front of our house, which places another financial burden upon us. I am retired. My mother-in-law is retired. We are seniors living on fixed incomes. All we see is money going out of our pocket and no benefit to us coming into our pocket. And I have nothing further to say on that. Oh, the other thing is, nobody came by, wanted to talk to us prior to this, wanted to propose the benefits of annexation or any of that. This was just done in the dark of the night with a letter in the mailbox. Hey, read the newspaper if you subscribe to it. Here's what we want to do, and bada boom, bada bing, we're at this meeting today. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Mr. Kelly.
We have one more.
We're not perfect with English. Okay, I have to press something.
No, just talk.
So my husband and me will live on 13565 MacArthur Road, Lamont. So we don't want to change anything. We just got the house a couple years ago. Everything is fine. We don't need city water. We don't want to make taxes up. I'm not working. I have special child. One person who is only working is my husband. We don't need anything change in this property. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mayor, I think we have one more.
Okay, great, thanks.
Hello, my name is Mike Michalowski. I live at 1223 State Street in Lamont. And I've been there since 1969. 2 children went to your Lamont High School and graduated. I ran a business in Lamont and held a liquor license. And my home is the one that you're talking about with the tree on top of it. It is not abandoned. It is my permanent residence. And I'm in a state right now where I have to either do a lot of work to the home because it is my residence and I plan to reside there until I die. And I am in a situation where I'm surrounded by the Lamont Shopping Center. And we've been haggling about price. And it will be a much better opportunity for me to sell the property to the shopping center or to whoever wants to develop that area when they come up with the right figure. So I will still reside there. I like the thought of the police protection and the water and the sewers, but I really don't want to put a lot of money into the place to remodel and bring in water and bring in sewers. When I first bought the place in '69, I had a pony, a well, and a septic tank. And it is all still there except for the pony. To my left is a shopping center, to my right is a shopping center and a bank, and it is prime property. The amount that the most developers want to offer me is the price of a regular home. And this property is not a lot for a regular home. It is worth much more than that to the village, for tax incentives, and that is my viewpoint. I also received a free senior citizens vehicle sticker, which costs me nothing. And I have all the protection from the police and fire department that I need. So that's just my point of view. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mike.
Anybody else?
Ken, do we have anyone else?
I think that's it, Mayor.
I have one other
Hey.
person with their hand up, Mr. Mayor, and then I
Yeah.
will turn it over.
Go ahead, George.
Yeah, Austin Hale, if you want to go ahead, I'll lower your hand and
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Braniff, and I live at 13575 McCarthy Road with Austin Hale. We purchased the property at the end of March, and one of the draws to the area was that the property was unincorporated. We liked the freedoms and the independence that came with it. We are not interested in getting, like you said, on city water or sewer. And we'd like to continue to stay unincorporated and be able to use the freedoms that come with that. We are absolutely not interested in becoming incorporated. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Ken, or George, anyone else?
let's see if anybody else has any questions on this one.
Nobody in the boardroom.
No further public comment.
Okay, and just to reiterate, apologize if anyone reached out for a meeting with us and was, we were not able to accommodate that. Trust me, we will accommodate any meeting with current owners. I hear you loud and clear. All of us do. We'd love to share with you. I think we could do it better on a one-on-one meeting because everyone's going to have different circumstances of why they don't want to be in and why it's a good case, from the village's standpoint. So again, be more than happy. Personally, George and I will sit down with you. And, any of the trustees, again, we can share more, information. Again, each of these 5 specific areas of annexation are different, and each of the landowners have, different interests, and the village has different reasons of why the annexation is needed on the village's behalf as well. But I assure you, this is not a money issue for the village. This is not, I hear you as far as, potentially additional, a few $100s going up. I hear you on that. That is not the reason for this. Again, would love to sit down individually with anyone that would like an additional explanation specific to their property. So, George, please, when, set those meetings up, and please reach out to George Schaefer on that. We'd be more than happy to, to share the information with you and to hear, additionally your concerns as well.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that, Mr. Mayor, we, in the letter that everyone should have received, my contact information is on there, my direct number. I talked to several residents who aren't on here who called me, and, I think everyone had the same concerns about regulation. And I think a little bit of, look at the village's track record. I mean, you look even in, we have areas of 2nd Street, 3rd, 5th, 4th, I think, where you don't have water. 4th has water, but 5th Street, we installed a new water line, but we have not required a tap in. We've approved variations. In fact, I think there was one just near there on McCarthy Road where we approved a variation for a septic field. The gas station, which is on the agenda tonight, we approved the variation for a septic field because we're practical, and we know that it's costly and not everyone wants our water and sewer. So I think that the track record goes a long way. It should, at least, where we'll get that all papered up and talk to everybody individually, but it's not our intent. The other thing we talked to other residents about is curb and gutter. It's not our intent to turn the town into everything curb and gutter. If you go in the older sections of town, there's still a lot of areas without curb and gutter. And to the mayor's point, I think on the revenue side, I think in the short term, it'll, when the village annexes these properties, we assume some of the issues that go along with them, some of the drainage issues, we might have to put money into these areas. So, I mean, it's not a money issue. It really is just kind of looking to achieve that uniform and consistent boundary. And I think we're willing to sit down and talk to everybody.
Thanks, George. Any other questions or comments? Again, we're going to be voting first on the 127th and then followed up by the other 4. Just in general, any other questions, comments by trustees or any other landowners? Okay, so again, we're on the 127th Street. Thanks, George, and thank you for everyone for joining us again. Look forward to sitting down with landowners to hear your specific, issues going forward. With that being said, for the 127th Street, we've already done a motion. Can we have a roll call, please, Charlene, to approve the 127th annexation property?
Sure. Maher,
Yes.
McClafferty,
Yes.
Snegowski,
Yes.
Stapleton,
Yes.
Kittredge,
Yes.
Kwasniewski.
Yes.
Okay, motion approved.
The next ordinance, if passed this evening, would be O-48-20. And this is annexing certain property in accordance with section 7-1-13 of the Illinois Municipal Code. And this is concerning the property at Grant and Cog Hill Channel.
Okay, need a motion, please.
So moved, McClafferty.
Second, Maher.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by trustee McClafferty, seconded by trustee Maher. George, anything specific on the Kelsag and Grant Street?
No, this is probably more of a cleanup one. This is the only one where we had our certified letters bounce back. The gentleman it went to, I think passed several years ago. But everyone, we made a good faith effort to reach the owner of this property. So really nothing further.
Okay, thanks, George. Charlene, roll call to approve the Grant and Kelsag channel annexation.
Okay, Maher,
Yes.
McClafferty,
Yes.
Snagowski,
Yes.
Stapleton,
Yes.
Kittredge,
Yes.
Kwasniewski.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, motion approved.
The next item, if passed this evening, would be ordinance O-49-20. And this is annexing certain property in accordance with section 7-1-13 of the Illinois Municipal Code. And this is the property on Main Street.
Okay, need a motion to approve, please.
So moved, Maher.
Second, Snagowski.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Maher, seconded by trustee Snagowski. George, anything specific on this?
Nope, I think I went through it. This is one that's bound by both the village and Palos Park, so it's eligible.
Okay, thanks. All right, roll call, please.
Maher,
Yes.
McClafferty,
Yes.
Snagowski,
Yes.
Stapleton,
Yes.
Kittredge,
Yes.
Kwasniewski.
Yes.
Motion approved.
The next item would be ordinance O-50-20, and this is annexing certain property in accordance with the section 7-1-13 of the Illinois Municipal Code, and this is the McCarthy Road property.
Okay, need a motion to approve, please.
So moved.
So moved.
That was Snagowski?
Second, Snagowski. That was Stapleton. Seconded by
Okay.
Snagowski.
All right, thank you. I wish I could see. Okay, and Snagowski. Okay, got it.
Okay, and definitely realize and appreciate the landowners off McCarthy Road being on this. Again, would love to sit down with each of you individually if need be, so we can share a little bit more information on this, and answer any of your specific questions if this does pass. So with that being said, George, anything else to add?
Nope, nothing further.
Okay, roll call, please.
Okay, Maher,
Yes.
McClafferty,
Yes.
Snagowski,
Yes.
Stapleton,
Yes.
Kittredge,
Yes.
Kwasniewski.
Yes.
Okay, motion approved.
The next item is another ordinance. It would be tonight if passed, and this is a O-51-20, and this is annexing certain property in accordance with section 7-1-9 of the Illinois Municipal Code, and this is concerning the State Street Water Tower property.
Okay, need a motion, please.
So moved, Snagowski.
Kittredge.
Okay, motion by trustee Snagowski, seconded by trustee Kittredge. George, as you mentioned, this is kind of a cleanup item, State Street Water Tower. With that being said, there's no other questions or comments. Roll call, please.
Maher,
Yes.
McClafferty,
Yes.
Snagowski,
Yes.
Stapleton,
Yes.
Kittredge,
Yes.
Kwasniewski.
Yes.
Okay, motion approved.
The next item, if passed this evening, would be a resolution. It would be R-37-20, and this is approving a final plat of subdivision for a two-lot, single-family detached residential subdivision located at 16622 West 127th Street. That's the Lomas subdivision.
Okay, need a motion, please.
So move, Staple.
Second Kittredge.
Okay, we got a motion by trustee Stapleton, seconded by trustee Kittredge. George, or actually, or Jason or Mark, do you guys want to take this?
Yeah, Mark, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. Little brief refresher on this item. It's been some time. The Lomas subdivision, the village board had approved in October 2018, the preliminary plat for the property, along with rezoning it to the R4 zoning district. Subsequently, the applicant filed for the final plat in a timely manner. It was did go through planning and zoning again with a positive recommendation in July 2019 and a committee of the whole in July 2019. Here we are more than a year later. There's been some delay, obviously, just with getting some of the stormwater stuff in order with MWRD. You know, it actually is a little bit tricky with it being a smaller property with the required stormwater and volume control that's required. And then with the county right away, the applicant was having some difficulty with getting some information from the county. It was exacerbated by COVID recently. So thankfully, though, we are here with a final plat. The village engineer signed off on it. Staff's recommending approval.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. Any other questions or comments on this? Roll call, please, Charlene.
Maher,
Yes.
McClafferty,
Yes. Yeah.
Snagowski,
Yes.
Stapleton. Stapleton,
Yes.
Kittredge,
Yes.
Kwasniewski.
Yes.
Okay, motion approved. Thanks, Charlene.
Thank you. That's all I have this evening.
Okay, Mike, anything for the village attorney report?
I do. Thank you again, Mayor. As I think you referred to in your mayor's mention, there was a press conference yesterday wherein the governor we've had a mandatory mask guidance since the beginning of May, but there will actually be some teeth into the requirement of mandatory masks. And the Department of Public Health is coming forth with rules that will be in front of the JCAR committee of the legislature tomorrow. We expect that to occur. We should have some knowledge of that tomorrow, and we'll know exactly what the new rules are. So that's the first thing. And also I wanted to indicate, also let you know that there has been some change, obviously, in the Restore Illinois plan, as you're aware. I've heard concern that we'll go back into phase 3, but the new rules we won't jump entirely into phase 3 right away. If things get worse, there are different tiers. There are different tiers where it won't be a full scale going back in phase. Example, there are many different ones, but I'll give you 2 examples on retail. If we have any change and if we have continuing numbers getting higher, they won't just close retail like we had it before. We'll have a reduced in-store capacity, so not as many people will be allowed in there in stores. And then also in the bars or restaurants, they will not be immediately closed. So there'll be a reduce in capacity indoor dining and suspension of indoor bar service. Again, this is only if we continue to have a very large increase in the positivity rate, which we're not there yet. But I just wanted to reassure the board and you, Mayor, that there is a possibility that we'll go back, but it's not like it was at the beginning of the crisis. So other than that, been a busy month, and I'll keep updated on any changes because of COVID. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. And again, we're in phase 4. Phase 3, which we have advanced from, originally did not have any stores open outside of, grocery stores, right? But it sounds like they will, if we do have to take a step back, which, unfortunately is probably a reality, coming this fall. I'm not in the business of predicting, but from what we're hearing, that's probably it's definitely a potential that can happen. So good to hear that they're rethinking some of the adjustments of phase 3. We've had a couple of businesses that have felt the effects of this, COVID pandemic. 2 businesses have closed down in the last week. So very unfortunate, but hopefully, we could move forward and potentially get to phase 5. But anyway, I appreciate the update, Mike. With that being said, George, you have anything on the village administrator report?
Yeah, a couple of quick items just to kind of follow up with what Mike had said. Jason couldn't make the meeting tonight, but we did send out an email to all of our business owners, and especially in the hospitality industry, and just letting them know as the announcement came out for more stringent masking regulations and that are coming. I think the rules, Mike, I think you may have mentioned, will come out next week on enforcement, and we just wanted to warn them. And also we've had some positive tests in Lamont. It's spiking everywhere in suburban Cook, but it is something we just wanted to send that out to the business community. So we're in lockstep. If we need to have another Zoom business call, Mike will be there. I can be there. The mayor. We want everyone to be safe. We want to keep our businesses going, but we have sent that out to the business community. And once we have the rules, we'll have another meeting and update everybody on where we're at. So.
Okay.
With that, other than that, I just wanted to update everybody on our board meeting schedule. And today was a little bit strange with the weather. We lost some power and having to do a hybrid. If anybody does have an issue with, I think Mike, we talked a little bit about even some of the towns that have started to meet again are kind of going the other way, especially with the numbers starting to go up. I think we're going to be doing Zoom for a little while longer. And but if anyone does have doesn't have a computer at home, please call me and we will find a way to set up the boardroom like we did today. Maybe we'll be a little more organized. Ken's done a great job though over there. Thank you, Ken. But if anybody has any issues with these meetings, we want people to be here, but we want everyone to be safe. So if you look at the meeting schedule, again, we'll get on our regular August committee of the whole on Monday, board meeting on the 24th, and then September we'll have our typical 3 meetings as well. And again, we're complying with all the rules from that was recently passed by the state legislature. And again, I reiterate again, going forward with if you have any questions on our or to see our meeting agendas for all of our commissions, village board, go to our website. Still trying to work out some kinks with the new site, but it looks good. And we're going to have Linda on here next meeting to go over, briefly just how to better use the website. But that we'll save that for next meeting. And with that, anything else? Let me know, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thanks, George. And I think I saw today, the numbers, albeit, we were averaging 1 new case a day. We're up to 199 people. Again, we were at 67 back in the middle of May. So we're, getting 2 cases a day instead of potentially 1. But, we do see it, in other, suburbs. So, it is, it's not going away, that's for sure. So hopefully it stays at this slower rate. Next up, any board reports? Staff reports at all?
Nope, we have none today. Mr. Mayor.
All right. Any new or unfinished business?
Yes, John, I've got one new business item.
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
This would be in the line with our discussion earlier. I don't know if we actually need a motion for this, but I'll propose that if we need one, we do it. It'd be draft. I'd like to either draft the motion or make the motion to have the village administrator, the mayor, and the village attorney develop a reasonable agreement for all interim zoning changes for incoming annexation of property from unincorporated areas until such time that the landowner changes the existing use. So what I'm asking is just for the board to give approval to the mayor, George, and the village attorney to come up with some sort of agreement and bring it back to us. But at least if it's a reasonable agreement based on what we discussed tonight, for the sake of the people that were here and the discussion we had, I think we should do something like that to move forward. So I'll propose that motion, I guess, if that's in line, Mike.
This is
Yeah, sure.
I agree.
You can do that, yes.
I'll second.
I'm sorry, what was the motion again?
Motion is
To
to
make a-
have the motion is to have the village administrator, the mayor, and the village attorney develop a reasonable agreement for an interim zoning
Interim, pardon me?
Zoning,
Okay.
interim zoning
Okay,
until such time as a landowner changes its existing use.
There you go.
Okay, thanks, Rick. I know we had a first and a second. Can you just repeat if you?
Trustee McClafferty.
Trustee Myers.
Yeah.
Okay with that.
okay.
Okay. Can we have to do a roll call since we're on Zoom. You want to do a roll call, please, Charlene?
Okay, Maher,
Yes.
McClafferty,
Yes.
Snagowski,
Yes.
Stapleton,
Yes.
Kittredge,
Yes.
Kwasniewski.
Yes.
Okay, motion approved. Thanks,
Okay.
Rick. Anyone else have any other new or old business? Okay, George, next up, you want to take over the audience participation,
Yeah.
please?
Yeah, we've already had significant participation, but this is the section where if anybody else has anything else for the board and or ideas or suggestions, now is the time to go through and raise your hand, and I will call on you, and you'll have 3 minutes to make a comment, but I will give you another second. And Ken, anybody over there want to speak, or they already? I think we're good.
We have one speaker.
Yeah, go ahead. You just state your name for the record and then go ahead.
Hello, this is Mike Michaelowski, 1223 State Street, Lamont. And as Mr. Schaefer brought up a tree, I have 2 trees that were roots cut out on them along the south side of my property. And they're both dead after a long period where the water piping and the sewer piping was brought in to accommodate the Aldi store right along my property line. They cut through the roots and the trees were left standing and they died off and they're in pretty sad shape also. So with the village incorporating, those are trees should be cut down by the village. I'm going to contact my insurance company to take care of a tree that is fallen by the wind onto my home. And we will solve those two problems if we have a little participation from the village. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks,
We'll
Michael.
evaluate that as, you know, I'll have Jason send one of his staff members out to take a look. All right, I did have Austin Hale had his hand up as well.
Yeah, thank you. I just had a couple of kind of follow-up questions. I know I mentioned being curious about kind of a time frame. So the annexation then would be effective immediately, or how long would that take to kick in? And also, will there be some kind of clearly and simply spelled out kind of guide of what changes we're seeing directly and when they will be taking effect?
Yeah, good question, Mike, with the county recorder's office being, so it, I would imagine be effective at recording, but that it might be several weeks. What do you think, Mike, on the recording?
Yeah, well, they've been open somewhat since the beginning of July, but we have to give the ordinance to the recorder office in downtown in Cook County. So that'll be done. But to answer your question, it's of legal effect today, but it still has the step of we have to go down and file it with Cook County and give them notice. I don't know if you want me to address the other area, George, or that's an area you probably will address, right?
Yeah, we'll have to, I don't know the effective date. I'll have to talk to you, Mike. We'll get back to you, Austin. If I have your email and
the question was about what's the difference is that, well, I don't know.
Yeah, basically just, are we going to get something in like clear and legible to the layperson writing, stating exactly what we're going to see personally as residents and landowners changing, as opposed to kind of where we were an hour ago, I suppose.
Yeah, we'll get that out to you. I mean, very little, as we talked, will actually change. You've had the benefit of, you know, having, you know, our police in the nearby area. If you had a call, our police would probably respond first anyway. But the issues like, you know, the information on vehicle stickers and, you know, how that works with, if you've already bought your county sticker, that's something we'll have to work through, Austin. I don't know if we can get you know, we don't want you to have to pay twice for a sticker. If you've already bought the county one, we can wait a year. You know, the other issue that would come up is garbage collection. We do get a discount for garbage collection. It's part of our, you know, contract with Waste Management. But not, other than that, not a whole lot will change. You don't have a road. I mean, it's really your McCarthy Road's a state highway. So there won't be a whole lot of changes in terms of the, you know, the road district, but yeah, we'll get something together.
Thank you.
Thanks, Austin.
All right, that's actually got one. Someone's chatting with me. Yeah, and no, there's nothing further, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thanks, George. And again, appreciate all the residents being on and your feedback. And again, just you know, for the third time, I'm more than happy to sit down with you to discuss your specific situations. With that being said, we have no executive session tonight, so we need a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
So moved, Maher.
Second, Stapleton.
Okay, motion by trustee Maher, seconded by trustee Stapleton. Roll call, please.
Let's see, Maher,
Yes.
Cafferty,
Yes. Yeah.
Nagowski,
Yes.
Stapleton,
Yes.
Kittredge,
Yes.
and Kwasniewski.
Yes.
All right, motion approved. Again, want to thank everyone for joining tonight's meeting. Everyone have a great week.